Hey guys, and welcome to the newest episode of Be Hero Presents, the Bump Card Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, as always, Brian, and with me tonight is my tag partner, Psycho. How are you doing tonight, Psycho?
I'm doing really good, actually. Thank you for asking.
Of course. You guys might hear in my voice, I'm not feeling the greatest. I just had my flu shot after having a physical and everything else. Happily, everything else turned out well, but yeah, I just feel like, because of the flu shot. So, let's see if we can power through this one. That being said, of course, tonight we are going to be reviewing 2024 WWE's Survivor Series War Games, which is really just essentially War Games at this point, but nevertheless, that's okay. So, before we do that, though, as we always do, we're going to go ahead and talk about all of the wrestling news in the world right now. So, Psycho, hit me with that world wrestling news.
Yeah, so the first one, and this is something we'll discuss, but did you hear that the plan is for SmackDown to move to 3 hours on USA?
I didn't hear that.
It makes sense. I mean, from their point, USA.
Yeah, and honestly, like we talked about this last episode where we have the mid-card titles now for the women, because the other talk to that tying in with it is they've gone back on probably making Raw 3 hours when it goes to Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
So it would make sense because now you have that extra hour to promote these additional titles and everything else.
I've always said whether it's 2 hours, 3 hours is a long time, but if it's good, I don't have a problem with 3 hours, right? Because then they can tell the stories. The issue is when it's 3 hours and they don't have enough good stuff to fill 3 hours. Right. When it was like, okay, you had a couple of good things, but then you had to shift through a lot of like matches that were meaningless, and you saw the same people wrestling over and over on a 3 hour show. I mean, that's when 3 hours is like, oh my gosh, too much, is when it's not good.
Yeah, but it's the same thing with anything, right? Like if you watch a 3 hour movie, if the pacing is garbage, you feel every minute of that 3 hours. But if the pacing is good, say like, Endgame for Marvel, Avengers Endgame, that 3 hours just go by. But, Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, for all the Lord of the Rings stands, I'm sorry, but you feel every minute of that 3 hours.
Yeah, Return of the King, I love, though.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of my favorite movies of all time. Like,
oh, yeah. And that one does. Like, that one paces so well because you're coming to the climax, giggity, of all of it, right? But, yeah. That being said, we are not here to talk about movies. Yes. That's on one of our other podcasts. All right. With that being said, though, I mean, that'll be cool going back. I think it's great for both USA and WWE for that because it's ad revenue. And I'm not exactly sure how they're going to handle ad revenue when it comes to Netflix. I know on their lower tier, Netflix has a low tier and then upper tiers. I think they have 3 tiers altogether. And I'm pretty positive you have to have the mid or upper tier probably to even get Raw, because you can't do certain things on Netflix right now without having it. Like if a new movie drops to Netflix, I believe it's the first 2 weeks, you can't watch it unless you have a premiere or like the top or 2 tiers. If you have the commercial tier, you have to wait. Thank you, T-Mobile, for helping me figure that one out.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So it'll be good for them to get the ad revenue.
Yeah. So the next thing is they announced that for Raw on Netflix that Pat McAfee will be coming back full time to be one of the announcers for Monday Night Raw. So,
and he will, because by that time college will be done.
Mm-hmm.
The college games will be done, which is kind of his thing. Like, because he has a contract both with ESPN to do college games as well as the stuff with WWE. So until college football comes back in September, it'll probably be the same thing.
Yeah, and I think I'm happy for it because I feel like Pat McAfee always brings energy to the shows. So, which is a good thing.
He has a very similar energy, but different, less creepy energy than Jerry Lawler used to have. Right, it was one of the great things about Lawler is Lawler could always have great energy with things. Pat McAfee also has that ability of having great energy.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. So I think it's a welcome spot for him to be in. So other news, we talked a little bit about this off air, but Nick Namath's brother, Ryan Namath, is basically he's suing AEW.
Yes.
And it's kind of interesting. It's mostly due to stuff that happened with CM Punk, I guess. So I think he feels like he was let go from the company or his contract wasn't renewed or whatever because of his issues with CM Punk. I don't know if I necessarily buy that though, because he was there long after they had let Punk go. So I don't know. I don't feel like he's going to win this.
Well, with his thing with Punk, and we talked about it a while back when it was first brought up, back when Punk was still with AEW, about this whole thing, right? About him having issues with Punk, and Punk apparently having issues with him, and him being supposed to be on an episode of Collision, and then gets there and was told to leave, like those kind of things. And he's under the belief that a large part of the reason why he wasn't used as he was meant to be, as in his mind, as well as others. Sanjay Dutt has brought up that he pushed storylines for him that they got turned down, was because of his issues with Punk. And not just his issues, but because he brought his issues up to upper management. The lawyer for AEW at the time, whose name escapes me,
Mega.
He reached,
Isn't it the woman?
Yes,
Mega.
Mega. Yeah,
her name's Mega. Right. Yeah.
So he had reached out to her towards the beginning about this because she also kind of fulfilled the role of like HR, sort of, and they were trying to do things to work around the issues and things like that, and she eventually steps down at one point, and in the supposedly in the lawsuit stuff they're bringing up was that it was said that she had stepped down due to conflicts with Nemeth, but he was stating that they never had an issue or all or anything like that. Like, there's a whole stuff going on, and really, even though the thing that caused the initial issue was the conflict with him and Punk's not really the one that's being involved in the lawsuit. It's actually the way that AEW handled the whole situation and the way that Nemeth felt about AEW. And don't quote me on this, but if I remember correctly, Nemeth recently pulled a thing out that his issues with Punk are not resolved, but he's moved past them. And this is not to do with Punk specifically, but with the way AEW treated the whole thing. So no matter which way you go. Yeah.
AEW like handled all of that like so badly. It could have all been prevented if Tony had a backbone.
There's so much that, and we've talked about it a number of times on this podcast, that of the ways that AEW in general, not just Khan, but AEW in general, should have and could have handled all of this. And they didn't, and it is not relevant. You can see it in the way that the product is and was then, and how you're starting to hear what people say about how the product is on backstage going forward. I know that Christopher Daniels has been trying to bust his butt, as well as Bryan Danielson, to attempt to make a better culture, but there is a gentleman who has deep pockets that seem to have a harder time allowing some of that culture to be updated. So the whole thing with Nemeth, though, I will be surprised if they go to court. I think it'll be settled out of court. And if it does go to court, I don't think he'll win.
Well, here's the thing, too, is that, so what I read is that they offered him a settlement, but he had to sign an NDA, and he refused to. That's when he sued the company, so I don't know. It's like, so maybe he wants more money. I don't know what he wants out of it if they offered a settlement. Maybe he didn't want to sign an NDA, and that was part of their thing, so he feels like he can win and not have to sign an NDA. But those darn NDAs. I have. You know how I feel about those. I had never heard of NDAs in pro wrestling until until all the CM Punk stuff happened, and then it was with the Vince McMahon stuff too, and it was like,
and Jericho and
all that. It's like, now you hear it all the time. It's like, that's the buzzword, right? That's the new cool buzzword that that everybody wants to use, is the NDAs. It's like, gosh, can you imagine if NDAs? I can't imagine the NDAs were way back when, because otherwise you would have thought that they would have tried to get other people to sign NDAs and it would have come out sooner. Like on some of those past events.
You do know somebody that did have people sign an NDA. It was a no compete and NDA agreement for Utah Wrestling.
Well, that was different, right? That was a no compete clause, not
an NDA. There was an NDA involved in it too.
Really? They couldn't say anything?
Correct. Yeah, they weren't supposed to talk about anything, including the stuff about the non-compete on there, which makes the whole thing with Snow and Sam even funnier.
Wait, with who?
Sam and Al Snow.
I don't know this story.
Oh, you don't? Okay. So
tell the story on the podcast. Yes. We're all about the stories.
The very first time I had a chance to ever meet Al Snow, we were working for War, and he was brought in and to do a seminar and everything else. It was 2010-ish, I think. And we did the seminar. It was a great time. Everyone was having a good time. And we had a lot of guys from UCW there. And Sam was one of the guys there. We were all talking about some stuff. And he had brought up the whole no-compete thing because Al Snow had asked if he was working the War show. And he told him that he couldn't because he signed a no-compete clause and everything else. And he was super confused about this. So he went to the car because he happened to have it in his car and showed it to Al. And Al was just kind of tearing it down one by one, going through the whole thing, talking about how any lawyer would rip into it that's not legit and everything else. Because one, you're an independent wrestler. So you shouldn't really have a non-compete. But two, it's for life. There was no time for it. It was never expired, which you can't do as a legal document. And that it also said that that Steve got like if they somehow made it or anything like that, or if they made money outside of that Steve was given offered a certain percentage. I can't remember what it was. And stuff like that. And Al just kept tearing into it, just laughing his ass off the whole time about it. But and he also mentioned that there was also a NDA involved in it too, so he shouldn't even be showing him. It was the whole thing, man. I laughed, like everybody there was laughing and having a good time about it. But yeah, I didn't realize up till that point when I was listening to I'll tear it in all up that how bad that contract was. So it just makes me laugh.
Yes. That's awesome. Yeah, that's oh gosh. I believe I'm trying to see if there's any other news here that needs to be talked about. I think that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Yeah, we can go right into Survivor Series.
Alrighty. Well, as we do every month, we will go ahead and jump right into Survivor Series and talk about the review of that. But before I do, I wanted to remind everybody to go watch the weekly shows. There's a lot of great stuff going on in wrestling right now. Even AEW is having decent stories. Not many. There's a few, but they're having decent stories. But of course, I'm thinking WWE and their amazing stories. TNA is having great stories right now. Even MLW and GCW are having good stories. So please go out there and watch everything that you can. These people literally make their money off of ticket sales and merchandise. Please go out there and support all wrestling, including independent wrestling. Shameless plug. So that being said, let's go ahead and move on now to the reviews of 2024's WWE Survivor Series War Games.
Hold on, wait. We gotta say this right. Hold on, wait. So, 2024 Survivor Series War Games, something like that. I don't know.
You know, whenever I hear it now, it always comes with a very British William Regal style accent.
Yes, that's the best one.
It is.
You know, it's I love it. So, all right. So the first match is War Games, the women's match of War Games. Bianca Belair, Naomi, Io Sky, Bayley and Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan, Nia Jax, Candice LeRae, Tiffany Stratton, and Raquel Rodriguez.
Yes.
Okay, so they actually it starts with Bayley and Nia Jax, which here's my thoughts. Why did we need to have Nia Jax in for the entire match? Especially so usually they'll put somebody in that first spot that can, number one, agent the whole thing, right? Mm-hmm. But also somebody that has the stamina and people will want to see as a workhorse for the entire match. And Bayley fits that mold. Nia Jax, not so much for me.
It's true. I probably would have put maybe Candice LeRae in, but I think it's due to story, right? Like the story of the most of that match, especially on the heel end, dealt with stuff with Nia specifically being the impetus for a lot of the stuff between Candice LeRae and Tiffany Stratton, right? And they needed to have Nia in to be able to do the spot where Tiffany was about to come out and Candice cuts her off and goes. Like, that needed to have her in there for that spot. And Nia is not, a top tier worker, but she's a top tier entertainer now. She's gotten so much better since her return about being entertaining and watchable and giving you something that you don't get, right? She's kind of the thing that I always wanted from her as an entertainer, in that I'm better than you and it's scenario, but from a very big powerhouse person like that, I think she hits that role perfectly. I also think it works out well to have her start off with Bayley, who could still guide her through, and they also have history themselves together.
That's true. It's just tough for the audience, I think, or it's definitely tough for me. But I won't get into all the spots, but I'll just kind of go through like because it's a lot of garbage wrestling, which we'll get into. But Naomi's next because somebody thought it was a good idea to have the baby faces have the advantage in war games, which is usually, I'll say that usually it doesn't work if unless the heels have the advantage, because I mean it's like trying to put a handicap match together and the heels are the ones that are outnumbered. You know, it's a tough dynamic to make work.
It's true, but I think the problem comes to being where if you have one set of War Games matches with the heel having the advantage, you have to have the other, because then if you don't, you're just doubling up on everything, right? And I think with them having the advantage and having Nia be first, it kind of nullifies the advantage to a small aspect because she's so big and powerful. It's actually putting her over a bit more.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, it does have to be booked just right, and so maybe that is a good reason to have Nia Jax be in there from the start, because it is kind of more even that way, I guess. And if she beats down two people, it makes her a bigger heel, I guess. And trying to, like, two people can't even, or even with the advantage, they can't take Nia down. So, okay, you've won me over there a little bit with the story, at least. So Naomi comes in, and let me say that this whole thing where everybody that comes to the ring is looking under the ring to get weapons, that got really old for me very fast.
Same.
Especially, and we'll get into it, but there was a big problem with it later in this same match. But I hate that so much. It's like War Games should be enough of oh my gosh, you know, it's War Games and the cage should be the weapon, instead of, okay, let's bring a bunch of plunder in there, you know. And then it just turns, it's, for one, it's dangerous putting all that extra stuff in there, but also it's, I don't know, it's just, why do you need all that? It just turns into a garbage brawl instead of what it was designed for. Or if you're going to have weapons, have it be something interesting. I don't know. It's a lot of trash cans, so you get the stupid trash can like lid spots. Like that's so like 1980s, you know. I don't know, or early 90s, I guess. But I mean, I'm surprised they didn't have cookie sheets and everything. Yeah,
Well, I feel called out. I've been hit by so many cookie sheets.
I know.
The other aspect to it too is if you're going to use a weapon, you use a weapon, right?
Mm-hmm.
They end up having a bat at one point in this match, and I mean we're jumping ahead.
Yeah,
but they end up having a bat in this match at one point in time, and they actually use the bat and use it well. Like Liv swings for the fences with it against Rhea and does some damage, calling back to her attack on NXT about almost a month beforehand that led to Rhea having the mask on. So there was story for that weapon. But then there are other ones in this match where they have like a half dozen chairs in the ring at one point, and every single chair shot was so bad. They did the I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to hurt you.
There were times too where they'd be coming with the chair, and you know they don't do headshots anymore in WWE. So they'd be coming with the chair, and the person would literally bend over for them as they're coming, so that they'd hit them on the back. Like, who does that if it's a real fight? Well, first of all, you're probably not in a real fight. You just swing in a chair, but maybe you are. I don't know, but. But if
20 years of wrestling, there's a good chance I'm swinging a chair.
But if somebody's coming at you with a chair, I might put my hands up to block it or try to get it out of their hands or whatnot. I'm not just instinctively like turning, you know, like bending over. It's like, because that's really what you're doing. You're bending over.
Yeah. Well, I think it's that concept too. Like you don't know what you're doing when it comes to that scenario to make it make sense, right?
Yeah.
Like if I'm swinging at you for your head and we're trying not to do headshots, I would have it where I catch the chair in hand, so we're fighting over it, and then I tell you to kick me in the gut.
Yeah.
So now I'm bent over, and then you can hit me in the back.
Right.
Because
Give
that
a
makes more sense.
reason. Give a reason for you to be bent over. Don't just bend over. I mean, this, it's not that kind of a show. But so getting back, we'll kind of, because there's some things I want to bring up that you kind of touched on, but we'll get into it a little bit more in depth. But Naomi comes in, they have the advantage, because Naomi brings a kendo stick, by the way, in, so they do the kendo sticks, which is fine. But Candice LeRae is next. She brings basically a whole bunch of chairs with her, and they do some things there. Bianca Belair's next. She brings a fire extinguisher and a table.
At least the fire extinguisher ends up with a spot.
Yeah. The table, I mean, I guess it does get used later on. But hold that thought on that, because so Tiffany Stratton comes out next, and she brings the trash can and runs wild with that. And by the way, during most of this, the crowd's kind of dead. I don't know. It's like they're over it too. But Io Sky comes out next and gets her personalized trash can, and she heads up to the top of the cage. Doesn't quite get it yet, but they do this weird spot where Candice tries to suplex her down, but Io sunset flips over her into the ring, but somehow doesn't pull her down with it, so she just kind of flipped over her, and then it ends up where Io eventually hits her with a missile drop kick. But I don't know if that was a planned spot. It looked like it was a botch, and they just fixed it with a missile drop kick.
I'm pretty positive that's exactly what happened, because I don't think that when Io went over, she was able to grab enough of Candice's hips to be able to power her over, quote unquote, power her over.
Yeah, grab enough of her hips. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought. Anyway, we're gonna get canceled. Raquel Rodriguez comes out next, and this is the spot I don't get. So she's basically spends a whole bunch of time before she gets in where she's checking under the ring and doesn't find anything that she wants to use, and goes in. I think she pulled out a table and she just left it out there.
Yes, she did.
And then so it's like there's something, but she goes in the ring not having brought in a new weapon. I'm wondering if there was supposed to be something there and it was on the wrong side of the ring or something. Because how many times have you and I had matches in wrestling where we had planted something underneath the ring and we were told, all right, it's on that side of the ring or whatever, and then we're looking for it under the ring and it's not where it was supposed to be, or somebody moved it from a previous match or something, and then so I know how that goes. But I wonder if something was supposed to be there and they couldn't find it, or I can't imagine that was actually the plan, that she was supposed to go out there and look and look like you're trying to find something, pull out that table, but nothing that you can find, so you go into the ring. I would love to hear the logic.
I have a feeling, at least with the table spot, she pulled the table out and then realized that there was already a table in there. She must have missed it somehow the first time, because she knew that it was going towards for the finish. So I think that's probably what ended up happening. But at least in that aspect, it was a mess. There were some decent spots in this match, but somebody really needed to go over the agency of this match.
Oh my god!
Third time.
It was so repetitive.
Yeah.
But Rhea Ripley comes out last for the baby faces. And she grabs the other table and tries to get in the ring, and the heels are trying to stop her, or Raquel is trying to stop her from bringing in bringing in that table, even though there's already a table in the ring. So what's another table going to do? But they're fighting over that, and it's and nobody's even touched the table that's in the ring, so I don't know why they're worried about it. But let's see here. So they go in and do some stuff, and then Liv Morgan, she's the last for the heels, and Rhea Ripley's basically waiting for her to come to the ring. And so Liv Morgan goes to the back and brings out a baseball bat with her. What, she didn't think to put that under the ring? I don't know. She had to put that somewhere else. Maybe that's what Raquel was looking for and she couldn't find because Liv put it backstage instead. Who knows?
I think you're missing the point. It's not about her going to grab the bat. It's about teasing the spot that she was trying to run away again from Rhea, because she's fair of Rhea. So she does the whole "I'm terrified" look on her face, starts heading to the back, and then she comes back with the bat, a weapon she used to take Rhea out. It's all story, man.
Yeah, I'm just making fun of it.
I know.
So Liv Morgan goes in, and they do this spot though where all the heels attack Rhea and try to handcuff her to the corner. But Io Sky stops that, and the baby faces fight back. And let's see here. They do the Io and Tiffany Stratton both climb to the top of the cage and hit stereo moonsaults on a bunch of piles of people in each ring. That was they hit double moonsaults, didn't they?
Nope. Io hits a moonsault with the trash gun on her head, which was damn impressive. And Tiffany Stratton hit a swanton.
Is that the same spot?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that. All right. So yeah, the trash can spot, we've seen it somewhat before, but this one looked more impressive though, because she hit the moonsault with the trash can on, right?
Yeah. The last 2 times she's done the trash can spot 3 times now in War Games matches. The last 2 times were cross bodies that she did, essentially. And so she hit the moonsault in this one, which was damn impressive.
It was, because do you know how difficult it is? First of all, a moonsault is what it is. Not a lot of, there's people that can't do it, right? I'm one of them. Yeah, you're too, right? So, but to do it with a trash can on you, think of that. You have no wiggle room to get rotation or whatnot. It's all, that's got to be all lower body strength, right? To jump up and then use your legs to flip to do that. You can't use your hands really to get leverage.
It's true, but the nice thing is in that scenario, she's coming off such a high thing. She only it helps compensate for that, right? So it makes it a little bit easier to deal with.
It looked really good, though. Yeah, it looked really good. Good spot. That would scare me to death, by the way, being on top of a cage like that and jumping backward where you can't see anything because you're in a trash can and flipping. That seems so dangerous. But she did it, and it was awesome. And then the swanton, that's right, from Tiffany Stratton. I just hate, though, that everybody just kind of... I hate the spots where a bunch of wrestlers just kind of stumble right into the same spot, and they're all just standing there waiting for, whoever to jump out onto them. And they were waiting for a bit too. They were standing there just kind of waiting for it and trying to look dazed or whatever. I hate it. Well, as far as that setup goes.
It's a hard setup in that scenario, because not only are you waiting for one person to do a move, you're actually waiting for 2 people to do the move. And one of the 2 people is literally waiting for the other to do the get ready to go, because they're trying to time it together. So it is a very complicated setup to do. So I could see why everyone was kind of waiting, but I 100% agree with you. I also hate being the guy sitting there waiting for that, whether it's a dive or what have you, where I'm just hitting, looking over for the guy, getting ready to catch it. So, worst one I ever had to do, and it wasn't that we were waiting, it was just the worst one that I had to do for a catch, was me in a 1v4 match, handicap match. I'm leading before, that's a bad guy, and we're sitting there on the outside grouping because we just got our butts kicked in the ring by a large gentleman by the name of Juicy Fanoa, who works with MLW and GCW. He's a big dude. He's almost 400 pounds of Samoan, right? Or Polynesian. I apologize. I keep talking, but he's Polynesian. A big dude, right? So we're on the outside trying to do the game plan gimmick, waiting for him to do a dive through the ropes for us to catch him. For 4 of us to catch a 400-pound man. It was terrifying.
Do you remember, real quick, there was another one where I believe you were part of it with me, where we were fighting and we were supposed to catch Adon Reyes jumping from the top of the how do you describe it? It was from a height.
It was a storage area inside of a building that was like a 2-story thing. So it was kind of high. It's probably 15 to 20 feet high.
Yeah.
And he jumped off of it. And there was like 6 of us, I think it was, because it was a 3-on-3 and I was a manager. So I think it was 6 of us to catch him. And I was the last bowling pin to get knocked over. I never even touched that. And I just got bumped by somebody else to fall over.
Oh, me too. I don't know if anyone caught. No.
That explains so much.
I'll be honest, like on those, like I hated those things, like especially from a height like that, and it's a bigger guy or whatever. I feel like I'll be there, but I'm going to be like on the outer skirts of the guys, so I'm not the one that's primarily catching them. But I don't know.
The last 3 times I had to do a catch for somebody, I've been like I'm more experienced than everybody else. I'm pretty positive I can keep this person safe. I'll be in the middle to get ready to catch them. And somehow, some way, something happened where the guy missed or something was different, and they either flew over top of me, so went to the group behind me, or whatever. But that's how it's been like the last 2 or 3 times I went to catch somebody.
Oh boy. Sorry, getting back to the match here. So basically, when Liv Morgan was actually using the bat on Rhea Ripley, here's my problem with that spot. Because, okay, they're selling it, whatever, but she's hitting a woman repeatedly in the stomach or the chest, whatever. I think it was the stomach, but hitting them repeatedly with a baseball bat, right? Well, if you're really hitting somebody with a bat multiple times, I needed some realism to like her to be like blood to come from her mouth or something, I don't know. There needed to be something. You can't hit somebody multiple times and them not seriously be, hurt.
It's very true, and I often agree with you in a scenario like this. It goes to a thing that seems to have happened a lot since the Attitude Era, I've noticed, which I kind of call the I'm a badass scenario, where a scenario like that where somebody gets that or somebody gets hit by a car, right, and gets right back up. It's because I'm a badass. It's like, that doesn't make sense to a story. But I'm a badass. It's like, no, that's not how that works.
Yes.
So, like Darby Allin, prime example. He gets up from a ton of shit he should not get up from, period, and keeps going.
There's a difference between a badass and a dumbass. Let's just be honest. But yes. But yeah, so I didn't like that spot. I see what they were going for, but make it look real. I don't know. It's I mean, they said that, oh, her body's welting up or something. Didn't look like that to me. Not the way it should look if you're really hitting somebody that many times with a baseball bat. So
I've seen more damage with the kendo stick than I have with the baseball bat.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Kendo stick. It's very hard to pull that and it's still not hurt. Kendo sticks hurt. Oh my gosh, and it pinches you.
Yeah, I had last year during our 5th anniversary show we did for Devotion Championship Wrestling. William Cutting, Josh Martinez, faced against one of our other guys in a street fight match, and Fox, who's the other guy, does use a kendo stick on Josh. Josh had never taken a kendo before. Josh used to do all of the freak show stuff. Like, he used to be hung by like hooks kind of thing. So he's used to pain. And he was complaining to me after the match about how much the kendo sticks hurt and how welted he was. He's like, by the 4th time, I'm like, you're not hitting me with that anymore.
You know what's funny is I can totally picture his voice saying that.
Oh man, it's a good time. Anyhow, so many like tangents to go off on tonight.
Yeah. But yeah, so basically the finish basically happens. Rhea Ripley power bombs or does a riptide to Liv Morgan off of the top rope or whatever, or the second rope, whatever she was on.
Top rope through a table.
Yeah, through the table. They finally used the table.
And it looked great, by the way. I was actually happily surprised at how well that looked.
Yeah, it was good. It was a good finish, right? Right, people went over all of that. It tells this story there. There was more stuff I hated about this match than loved. And it was War Games as it is a really long match. Like, this is like an hour long match. Like, with with everything combined, you're there for an hour.
Yeah.
Okay. And to keeps watching them, hunt for objects under the ring and stuff like that, and no blood, even with baseball bats in there and stuff. And I'm not saying that I want blood in women's matches, but if you're going to do the spots, and it's women, we're not even talking about men, and this isn't a sexist comment or anything, but there's no way that they're taking that and it not seriously injuring them.
Right.
I just, so it took me out of it a bit with the realism.
And we get such an interesting counterbalance in that realism concept in the second War Games match we get later.
Yeah. And we'll get to that. But as if they're going to do the weapons, by the way, if they're so intent on including weapons, they should just have them hung up inside the War Games. So then whenever anybody goes in there, they can just grab whatever they want to grab, and it's already in there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, then we don't spend time with, where they're like, every time they're spending 60 seconds at least looking under the ring to find stuff. It's just there. And then part of the intrigue could be, which weapons are they going to choose? Pick your poison, basically. I don't know. That's my thought on maybe tweaking it a bit if they're so intent on using it. And maybe that might be a different one. Maybe they just do that for the women, right? If they need that extra, something to make it, they do that type of a War Games match for the women. The men do the traditional, because they didn't need all that necessarily. Then you have both War Games matches very different, so they're distinct from each other.
I can see that, and the only thing I would say about it is, and it's something I hated in the matches where they did like the street fights in the cage thing, where they have weapons hanging inside of a cage. is it's very hard to see. It's already hard to see a cage, like in a cage. When we went to Vengeance that one year and we watched the Triple H Batista blow up in the Hell in a Cell, you remember how hard it was to see through that cage with a live audience.
Yeah.
So adding the weapons on the inside makes it that much harder. That being said, I think your idea has merit. So what I might do is actually not have them on the inside of the cage, but already have them on the outside of the cage, just, leaned up against the cage or whatever, and have it where like they can grab it at that point, so they don't have to do the hunting per se to go under the ring to get it, and they can put it in that way, or even have a spot where like they get knocked down and they pull a kendo stick from outside the cage inside the cage through the lattice. So there's opportunity there, but that way it's not much harder to see, and it's got the ready availableness and the anticipation. Like you see all that stuff on the outside. Are they going to use it?
Which one are they going to pick? Yeah, it's like
exactly.
I even like the pick your poison like thing. If they can tag that and say, it's a pick your poison War Games match or something. I don't know if it might add a little bit more intrigue. And there could be some unusual weapons out there even, maybe you have an iron or a tire iron even, or I don't know, the kitchen sink.
I've got it. So have the regular War Games cage and everything else, right? And then wrap it in a Hell in a Cell and put a couple of dogs around it that just kind of shit all over the place.
Wait. And I got the perfect name for it. It can be called Kennel. No, wait. Yeah. Kennel in a Cell, right? Or no, it's Hell in a Kennel, right? It was Hell in a Kennel. Like that. Yeah.
I can't remember what they call that stupid match.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, two non-threatening dogs. They just kind of pooped all over the place.
Or humped each other. Yeah, that's the two things that they did. Oh my gosh. All right. So that match was what it was.
Yeah, our criticism of that match almost as long as the match was.
Almost. We did have the news at the beginning too. So, but we're flying on. We're like almost halfway through the show. Then we've got the U.S. Championship match. LA Knight defending against Shinsuke Nakamura. And they kept saying like it's a new version of Shinsuke and whatnot. Like, same style. Like nothing was really different. I don't know. Like some different paint on his face. But that's pretty much...
Yes and no. Like there are aspects of his character that... weren't, or that wasn't the same. Like there's a lot of aspects of the character that wasn't there. Movesets majoritively was the same, but there's certain things that he does. I mean, his style is a shoot style, right? So he's gonna be, or strong style, excuse me, not shoot style. So it's gonna be essentially the same thing because he's still using kicks and elbows and forearms, right? And he still uses the reverse exploder and stuff like that. Where he almost damn near kills LA Knight with that top rope, a reverse exploder. But yeah, I mean, there's some more refinement he needs, but I can see where he's going with the character.
Yeah. This match was okay. It was a lot, it was striking and everything. It's about what you'd expect. Nakamura, though, does... so basically the finish is... And they're fighting kind of like in between the rings. At one point, they're on that like apron where the steel is. And Shinsuke actually gives an inverted DDT to LA Knight. And then basically pins him with the... What's the name of the kick? Or the knee? Yeah, the Kinshasa, right?
Kinshasa.
Did I say that
Close
right?
Enough.
Oh.
Close enough.
You know how I am with Japanese, anything. It's like, but yeah, he hits him with that and surprisingly wins the US championship here. I think it's his third reign.
It is. It's his third title reign with the U.S. title.
Mm-hmm.
And I mentioned to my wife when we were watching this that Shinsuke needed to win it because it would have completely deflated his return if he didn't win.
I will say this though, I don't know why, but I feel like this loss it makes me feel like the LA Knight experiment is over for as far as a big push goes. I don't know. I think this is as high as LA Knight's going to get. Is this U.S. title reign? I don't see him with multiple championships.
I'm not gonna say never. But I do agree with you, at least for right now. I think he's on the back end of this push he's had with it. And unless he figures out a way to refresh his character, I don't know what they're going to be able to do with him. But, this is the same business that after 11 years gave Kofi a championship, like the big title, because the fans pushed for it. So
that's true. Maybe he'll find something that'll work. but yeah, I think the push for now, I think it's going to be cooled off. So yeah, anything more you want to say on that match?
Not really. It was a match of all time.
It was a match that happened at a certain time in the show. Yes. Thank goodness it didn't take all time.
I do think it was well placed on the show, though. I think it was the right placement for it.
Yeah, going right after that, I dug it. Right after that is your Intercontinental title triple threat. Braun Breaker defending against Sheamus versus, and then also Ludwig Kaiser. This match, I was really impressed with Braun Breaker. I'll say that. I'm undecided on Kaiser. Sheamus is Sheamus. He got in his spot on the outside where he, was clubbering him from behind. On Ludwig,
which was a great spot.
Yeah, that was a great spot. That was why Sheamus was there. But this match, I was really impressed, like with lots of spots from Braun Breaker, like the where he dove over the tables to clothesline both of them. Do they still call it a Steiner line? I'm probably not, since he's not like carrying the Steiner last name. But
no, they only call it the Frankensteiner when he does the top rope Hurricane Rana.
They do, or they don't?
Oh, they do not. They call it the Breakin' Steiner.
Okay, but they still say Steiner.
Yeah.
There. The Breakin' Steiner. Oh, I get the pun there. I get it. But I was super impressed with him. Honestly, this to me was the best that I've seen Braun Breaker. Like, he's very athletic.
That's an understatement.
He's very athletic, but I'm telling you, when he's barking around the ring or when he's talking, so when he talks, he sounds like Scott. He sounds like Scott Steiner in his promos, everything like that. But he looks like his dad. He looks like Rick Steiner, but with Scott Steiner's charisma.
Yeah, he's pretty much got like the no pun intended for Lex Luger, but the total package when it comes to being a Steiner, right? And he knows just how to work the crowd too, because he's got that right level of intensity with everything else. And being as athletic as he is, along with having the second generational experience that he does, it gives him so much. And then they also put him with good hands, right? Like, Sheamus is the right person to have had this program with, this story with, because Sheamus knows how to get exactly what you need out of a match. Honestly, like, as it's been for like the last 2 years now, Sheamus is slowly becoming the king of triple threat matches. And he doesn't often win them. If anything, I don't think he's won a single one in the last couple of years. But he has insanely good triple threat matches.
Yeah, and you mentioned good hands. I've got a question. How does Ludwig Kaiser? I got to be careful with how I word this, but like, he's dating Tiffany Stratton.
Yes, and I believe they're engaged actually.
Oh my gosh! Like, I don't get it. Like I don't know. It's like, yeah. I was gonna say something about how how does he get his hands, Anyway,
Yep.
use your imagination from there.
Ludwig, though, I actually think is a fantastic worker. And it was actually Gabe Sapolsky that put me on to really seeing how good of a worker he really is. There's a WWE speed match between him and Ricochet that was. It wasn't him and Ricochet. It was him and Tommaso Ciampa. That was insanely good. In fact, Gabe puts it on his watch list of matches to watch because of how good it was. If you ever have the opportunity of having a tryout match with Gabe Sapolsky, his matches that he has you do are 3-minute matches. Largely because if you can't get him within that 3 minutes, you're not going to get him after 3. And most TV matches are between 5 and 8 minutes. So it's a perfect gauge to see what kind of person, like kind of worker you are. And so when the WWE Speeds are doing these 3-minute matches on Twitter, it's perfect way to express that. And the story that those two told in that match was so good. And like what they did is so good. And ever since then, I've had a different light for Kaiser. Like he is a fantastic worker. Kaiser, given the right story, I think could be main event.
Yeah, back in the Attitude Era, all the matches on Raw, was 3-minute matches when Vince Russo was booking. It was Crash TV. It was all 3-minute matches. If you went 5 minutes, it was a long match. But I thought this match was okay for what it was. They kept teasing like, if Sheamus has never won the Intercontinental title, and if he won this, he'd be a Grand Slam champion. Which placed a little doubt, like, oh, maybe they are going to pull the trigger, but no, it's not that much doubt.
Breaker, no, they're going to give him a mini Kofi Mania, and he's going to win it at WrestleMania.
Maybe, but yeah, Breaker ends up winning this by spearing basically both. I think, does he spear? He hits a spear on Sheamus and pins him, I guess. I thought maybe he had I guess he hit the rolling. No, how does he get rid of Kaiser? Isn't it with a spear as well?
He hits Kaiser with a spear on the outside.
That's right. Okay.
But Kaiser had just hit Sheamus with Sheamus's shillelagh in the ribs a couple of times, so softening up those ribs for the super spear, which is what he calls his spear, is the super spear.
Yeah, but it was a hard-hitting match. Yeah, not a lot to say about this one for me, but I think we said it all.
Yep.
Okay, so next we've got our World Heavyweight Championship match, Gunther versus Damian Priest.
Yep.
I'm going to tell you right now, this was my favorite match on the show.
Oh, yeah?
It was. I thought the work was really good here, and the story that with all of this, I really got into the story of it. And I'm not the biggest, like it's taken me a while to warm up to Damian Priest.
Same.
But I'm starting to like more and more of his matches. And his character work and all of that. And this match was really good. It made me be like, oh, how are they going to, what direction is this match going to go? I'm pretty sure Gunther's winning, but I can't picture Damian Priest losing clean here. So I was wondering how, what's going to happen. And this match was like your wrestling match on the show too. It was a lot of wrestling. It was a lot of, there was hard hitting stuff, but it was a lot of almost like chain wrestling and stuff like that. It was
Gunther was working the arm almost the whole match, arm and shoulder. So it worked out, really telling that story well. What I liked about this match also was the story, and I liked it because of how they broke down the psychology for the story. During the opening of it, not only were you having it where Priest was over, as you should, but you also went a little farther than the other one, where you actually were seeing doubt in Gunther's face that he could do this, right? And then when the cutoff happens and it gives the opening with the shoulder, now Gunther is, I've got this whole full mode. And at the end, towards the comeback, when he's Priest is coming back on it, he, like, Gunther's like going back to being surprised. I don't think I have this. And that tells such a great story and amplifies what you would normally have in a match, which I was not only impressed, but I'm going to start trying to work into my own stuff, is adding more of the emotional aspect more than just trying to get the emotion aspect. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and there was a really scary spot in this match where they're fighting for a superplex, and then they both kind of like Gunther falls into the ring, but Damian Priest falls to the outside. Scary as hell, you know, the way it happened. But it played right into his shoulder hurting and everything, right? Because he was like, it's out. I think he actually told the ref it's out.
Yeah.
Right. And so the ref goes in with Gunther, and then out of nowhere, Finn Balor comes in and climbs up onto the steel steps and then does his double stomp down onto Damian Priest. And then Gunther ends up getting the he puts him back in the choke, right? Yeah, he puts him in the choke.
He wins out with the choke of it.
And
before
Priest
that,
passes
though,
out. Oh yeah,
Gunther does get upset with
Balor
being out there, and he kicks him right in the chops.
Yes,
and stuff like that. So, like, try not to say that there was any deal or anything right there. Like, and on Raw, he comes back and says, "I didn't need your help. I didn't want your help. I was trying to do this for myself." So they're obviously going to build to, well, they are actually. It's Gunther and Balor at Sunday Night Main Event. So
I could see that ending in some sort of a smalls, and them doing a triple threat at the Rumble.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Because they all three have issues with each other, right? Yep. So that's the best way to set up a triple threat. So three-way dance. But yeah, and then Gunther ends up winning because Priest passes out in his choke. You know, the finish really got me because, you know, I've heard some people say, oh, you know, Finn Balor cheats him out again, whatever. But now Priest can be super pissed at Balor. Like, okay, it just adds to that rivalry. Like, you won't stop until I put you out type thing. And I don't know.
I was going to say they did a spot after the show that you see on Raw, but they also did it on the YouTube's what's that thing called? The after show that they do.
The post show. I think it's post show. Yeah.
They have it where Kathy Kelly's interviewing Finn Balor about why, and then Priest comes up and jumps him, and then the other members of Judgment Day jump him and smash his arm with a chair again, and screws up his arm some more. They take him off TV until obviously Saturday Night Main Event. So they are definitely building to a thing with that.
Yeah, I dug it though. I dug the whole story, and I'm emotionally invested in this story that they're forming here. Mm-hmm. So good job on them, and I did really enjoy the match. So now we're at our main event, War Games, the men's War Games. So Roman Reigns, Sami Zayn, Jimmy Uso, Jey Uso, and CM Punk versus Solo Sikoa, Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa, Jacob Fatu, and Bronson Reed. I was actually really confused at the beginning. So because I believe that Jimmy's been coming out with Roman, and so when Jimmy came out by himself, because I thought one of two things: either Jimmy was going to come out with Roman, or the Usos were going to come out together, And when Jimmy came out by himself, I'm like, okay, is Jay coming out with Roman? But then Roman comes out, and then I was like, that's interesting that they're saving Jey Uso for last. I mean, I get it because he was the first one to start, but it was still interesting that they, introduced him last.
But he's also the most over out of literally everybody in the match. Maybe Punk, but
Roman?
Yeah.
More than Roman?
He sells more than Roman does. He sells more merch, and he's more over. And also having him come out through the fans.
Okay. Yeah, I like that you said maybe other than Punk, though. We were on to something there.
I mean, I'm not going to say that the fans are right. I'm just saying.
So yeah, Jay starts. Tama Tonga starts for the heels, which is fine. They kind of start a little bit slower here because Jay was very cautious about going right at him. It was a lot of feeling each other out there. Yeah, good hands again. Bronson Reed comes out for the heels next, and now they've got the advantage, and so Jay's in trouble. I mean, Bronson Reed comes in. Of course, he brings chairs in with him. I kind of thought when Bronson Reed was bringing the chairs, my first thought was, why the hell does Bronson Reed need any weapons? He is a weapon. He's a weapon of mass destruction. He should, why is he bringing chairs in? Oh, and then when he threw in the chairs, now instead of you coming in and how is Jey Uso going to stop you? You basically, have some chairs. Have some chairs to fight me off with because, I'm giving you a chance. Because he slides in the chairs, and then Jay does exactly that. He picks up the chairs and tries to attack Bronson Reed with it. I don't know. It made Bronson Reed look incredibly stupid.
I agree. I thought a similar thing. I mean, he does slightly redeem it because he eats a couple of the throne chairs and then he spats one down. So he goes with the I'll take these two, but I'm still coming at you kind of thing, making him more of a monster. But yeah, he looked like a bit of an idiot.
Yep. And then Jimmy Uso comes next.
Giggity.
And then the Usos do some tag team work. Let's see here. And then Jacob Fatu comes out for the heels. And he comes in with, I mean, Jacob Fatu is one of those, I don't know, he's like their big thug mercenary, honestly. He's the one that's dangerous.
He's the enforcer, which is what Solo was the first time around.
Yeah, and so they're fighting. Sami Zayn comes in, but I gotta say that he was not the one that was originally going to come in. Punk was going to walk in, and Roman Reigns stopped him, put his hand out to stop Punk, and then Sami Zayn went. So they were causing that friction, which was really interesting dynamic where both Roman and Punk were stuck in the cage together after that incident. And they're both kind of ignoring each other, but kind of also looking at each other a little bit,
It's the
side-eyeing.
avoiding with the dirty eyedness. It's like two guys who are sleeping with the same woman who, but don't want to talk about it kind of scenario in an elevator.
Yeah, sure.
It works in my head.
There's a joke
Don't
in
do
there.
it. Don't do it.
Oh, okay. Moving on. You knew where. I think you could sense it. So yeah, Sami Zayn comes in, makes a little bit of a comeback on Bronson Reed, and Tonga Loa comes in next for the heels, and he brings a table with him. Let's see here. The heels are all kind of beating up the baby faces at this point, and then the baby faces they're next to have somebody come in, and Roman looks like he's going to walk out and keep Punk in the cage, and Punk just kind of brushes past him and he races out, which I actually really loved how they were telling that story and building that tension. Really, really good stuff there. So Punk goes in, but before he does, he looks under the ring and he grabs a toolbox and he beats the heck out of people with that toolbox. See, at least it was an interesting weapon. I kind of thought that it was maybe like open and they would like have wrenches and stuff they would go at each other with or whatnot, but it never really happened. I don't remember it happening. It was just a toolbox. You could hear stuff rattling in it, but let's see here. And then Jacob Fatu basically no-sold Punk's toolbox and stuff, and then put him down with a spine buster. Solo Sikoa's last out for the heels, but kind of like looks at Roman Reigns as he's doing it, or as he's kind of walking down, does a stare down. And I forgot to mention that when Punk first was announced and came out, he did a really good job agitating the heels that were in the cage by just kind of going up to there and like shoving Bronson Reed and stuff through the cage, and they couldn't get at him. Really, really good work there. Because that's exactly what he does. He stirs the pot, right? He's a shit.
That is true.
Yeah.
Just ask Ryan Nemeth.
Yeah. Let's see here. So Solo basically slamming the cage door into multiple, slams it into Sammy's head. Then they bring over the other baby faces one by one. They each kind of get the door slammed in their faces,
which I thought was a good spot.
Yeah, it was. And then let's see here. So Reigns is next, but Solo locks the cage so Roman can't get in. I'm going to tell you right here, I thought, and this would have been, I think I would have marked out for it a little bit. I thought that we were going to get swerved here. Meaning, I thought when Solo locked the cage and Roman was going to come down and stuff, I thought that it was going to lead to Roman reuniting with the bloodline and turning on the other baby faces. That would have been and then Heyman coming out and kind of getting the whole group back together. Imagine how much heat that would have got. Like,
that feels like that swerve for the sake of a swerve that McMahon would have done.
I don't know. I would have got behind it a little bit. I would have been like, nobody would have saw it coming, and it would have got massive heat. And then you could build to like Roman Reigns, reunite with, versus Punk and Sammy again and all of that. It could have led to a lot of different stories and been in. I mean, Punk would have went ballistic over that, and basically it could have been like Paul Heyman set up Punk right? By saying, hey, come in and I'll owe you a favor. And then they all turn on him type deal. I don't know. It would have been interesting. It didn't happen that way, of course. Because Roman came in and climbed the cage to get in and fought them off.
He jumped off the top with a giant crossbody.
Which I've never seen actually Roman Reigns do that.
I know, it totally threw me off. I looked at my wife, I'm like, did Roman Reigns just jump off with a crossbody?
Yeah, I was very surprised. I was like, oh, he's busting out some new moves.
The one and only time, probably.
Yeah. But yeah, it was interesting. So he's in the ring now, and he helps. Roman does the thing where he helps everybody to their feet from the babyface side, except for Punk. Does not help him up. And they're kind of giving each other, the stare down, and then Paul Heyman comes out to basically try to keep the peace. And then all the baby faces and the heels get into a big brawl and start fighting each other off. Let's see here. And then the heels start to get the advantage again. Fatu goes up for like a moonsault, but like it looked like he hurt his knee because he just kind of falls.
So he slips on it.
Yeah.
And he actually, for all reports, he doesn't actually hurt himself. He's selling that he hurt himself through the remainder of this match, that knee is injured, to save the botch. And so,
because it was a botch, right? He didn't mean to 100%
slip, right? A botch, yeah, 100%. So one, Bronson Reed covers him pretty quickly right after that happens and like attacks, but he covers the rest of the match, or he goes the rest of the match selling that he hurt his knee. Like, I bought it.
I was really worried that it was that he had had a tear or something like that, and his it was in like an ACL tear or something. I don't know.
I was worried too at first. He survives through this match unlike two other people.
Yeah. So they put let's see here. So so Bronson Reed, basically he's going up to the top of the cage. He's gonna try to come off with a splash onto Roman Reigns on the table, but CM Punk makes the save at the very last moment, and Bronson Reed crashes through the table. Now, Bronson Reed here did get hurt off of that spot.
Broke his ankles. Not one, but both ankles.
Ouch. Ouch.
By the way, for you and anybody else who watches, Bronson Reed does this tsunami, and I pointed this out to my oldest daughter, Riley. It's the funniest damn thing, because he does this thing with his arms when he jumps off. He like brings them back and forth real fast whenever he jumps off. Watch the next time he does it, or watch back on him doing it. Whenever he jumps off to do a tsunami, his arms are doing this thing as he's about to land. It is the funniest damn thing.
People listening to us have no idea what you're saying. This thing.
He waves his. He kind of like does this wavy arm thing when he goes. Like, I can't explain it better than that. But it's exactly what you see. Like, it's almost like a little kid throwing a tantrum with his arms, and it makes me laugh all the time.
I kind of want to bring that move to the bedroom, and I'll be like, prepare for the tsunami. I don't think it would go over well.
Yeah, I'm sure Alicia look at you and is like, yeah, I'm expecting a 3 count.
Oh,
he's done. He tapped out.
That's like, yep, that's a wrap on the podcast. And then you come out of we're tapping out. Okay. Oh my gosh. It's a good thing she doesn't listen to this podcast.
Yeah, my wife does though.
Yeah, I know. So let's see here. Where were we? Oh yeah, the splash, the tsunami. And then basically Fatu basically, I think is this where Solo like stands and then they all basically go 5-on-1 on him?
It works to that pretty quickly. Like they eventually go through and all hit him with a big move in that aspect.
Yep. With I mean, there's the Kaluva kick from Sami Zayn in the corner, and there's the go to sleep, the double super kicks from the Usos, and then the big spear from Roman Reigns, and then he gets the pin. I liked the finish here, and I actually really liked this War Games match over the women's match.
I agree. Before that happens, though, Jay goes and splashes Chamatonga?
Might have been.
One of them from the top gives him a big Uso splash and ends up breaking his toe.
No, I think it was on Fatu.
Was it Fatu?
Yep.
But yeah, ends up breaking his toe in this match, which tells me if you're in a War Games match, do not do a splash from the top.
Yeah. So many people got injured this year from jumping off of top of cage. I mean, look at Adam Copeland in AEW too.
Breaking his leg.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
It's like I feel like after you're past a certain age, you shouldn't be doing that crap. I don't know.
Like, Kurt Angle doing a moonsault from the top of a cage in TNA.
I mean, Angle was one of those ones. I don't think he ever got hurt from it. So
not from that.
No.
I mean, but I think he used all of his injury luck to begin with on a broken freaking neck.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the match, and they're all kind of the baby. Okay, so as soon as the match is over and they're all kind of going out, Punk goes out and basically hugs Paul Heyman, and you can hear him saying, that I'm going to
you owe me a favor.
Yeah, you owe me a favor, and I'm going to call it in. I'm basically like, I'm going to be coming for it. And Paul Heyman basically is like, okay. So we still don't know what it is. There's speculation on what it is, but yeah, the way they were all kind of slowly walking up the ramp and stuff, and it was delayed. I thought we were going to get something else. I don't know. I thought the show was going to end with a big thing like last year's did. Not to that extent, but
I was actually expecting almost a shot for shot, essentially, for that, but it being Seth Rollins to go towards the Seth Rollins and CM Punk thing. Playing in that, I was waiting for it because of the way that they were taking that time on there.
Yeah.
So, and I'm surprised it didn't happen. Or even Drew would have made sense too, but I think Seth was the one I was most expecting because it felt like it was right for that scenario.
Yeah, and I do have to mention, so the next night on Raw, I am loving all the interweaving of stories that are happening right now in the WWE because I mean, all of this stuff is getting branched off into different feuds and stuff. Because I mean, look at the whole Kevin Owens thing against Cody Rhodes. That was branched off from the Bloodline stuff, right? Because Kevin Owens was upset at Cody for teaming up with Roman Reigns and all that. And now on Raw, you've got Seth Rollins mad at Sami Zayn and stuff because they chose CM Punk to be their partner, and Seth Rollins being mad at Jey Uso and all of that. That promo was fantastic, right? And then even later in the night, you've got Drew McIntyre coming back, making his return to take out Seth Rollins. It went because he was wrestling Sami Zayn and whatnot.
Take out Sami Zayn, not Seth Rollins.
Oh, sorry. He's taking out Sami Zayn when he's in the match with Seth Rollins. And I think Drew is his motivation to spin into these other feuds is going to be because they teamed with Punk.
Yeah, well, earlier in the night, Jay gets attacked by an unknown assailant, which is obviously McIntyre for that reason.
And so I'm loving all of these interweaving of stories that, gosh, they got so much here. it could literally take them through the next year of all these interweaving stories and everything. I'm loving it. The last time I remember like this good of weaving through the stories was right after the Ric Flair retirement. Well, one of them, the one at WrestleMania, where they branched off from that into Batista being mad at Shawn Michaels for retiring Ric Flair, and then you've got the Batista Shawn thing, but somehow that branches into Batista and Chris Jericho, and all of the week. I just love where you can take one story and then it leads perfectly. It makes all the sense in the world for it to lead into this other feud with this other guy. And then it just kind of, I just love that when it's interwoven like that.
Well, some of the best stories are that, right? Like you get to the rubber match of a program that you're with and use that to build to a new program with somebody else or something else that happens. Like that's always going to be the best way to tell a story because you're now giving the fans what they want and at the same time enticing them to come back to do something else.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things it reminds me of. I mean, like way back in the 80s, the Four Horsemen were faces initially, and they're in, I think Flair was in a cage match, and then the heels were beating him up, and Dusty Rhodes made the save and saved Ric Flair. And then that was basically the Horsemen attacked Dusty and locked him in the cage and broke his leg, because they didn't want his help. And it led into, the Flair and Dusty Rhodes feud. And so I just love the interwoven, where it leads from one thing to another. And I love when it's logical, when it's logical like that, that's when wrestling's at its best. So yeah,
and it's a way to do it adjacently too, right? So like McIntyre on Monday attacks Jay and Sammy for being involved, but doesn't say anything to Punk because Punk is now in a storyline with Seth, and because we already had that program, right? So it's adjacent to this other program and this other storyline that they're doing. Like just having all of that work, like you see a lot of times, especially in the Teddy Long era of GMing, where you would end up with tag matches of trying to combine two storylines together via a tag match because, one heel and one face and one heel and one face are like fighting. It's like, oh, let's everyone do a match now.
This match is now a tag team match, player.
Exactly. That's that forced version of the same kind of thing. This doesn't make it feel that way. This makes it feel like the WWE universe is that. Like it's high school, right? So you always have that, like, oh, someone used to date this one, this person doesn't like this. That's that kind of feeling that you get because it's such a small universe, but you're still able to tell such big stories because of it.
ECW used to do that great too, where like you'd lead into this one brawl and then it would lead into a tag team match and it would lead into the next match and it was just back to back to back, like just it. Yeah, all of this is really good. It's giving me the feels. It's like now you're going to be in a match with the Undertaker, player. Yeah.
With all of that being said, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode or this pay-per-view, or premium live event, as it were, of War Games, because it was actually a very good pay-per-view, probably one of the better ones. I don't know if all of the year, but I would probably put it in the top 10 of all year for how all the storylines melded together.
It's the top 10 WWE pay-per-view of the year. It's like that's putting it pretty low, actually.
I said top 10 of all pay-per-views. I didn't say WWE. So, but I really enjoyed it. I hope you guys did too. Please reach out to us on our social medias to let us know. Additionally, I want to also hear from you guys. I've been getting a lot of messages via social media about the Spotify end of the year wrap up that they do. And on that, it's been talking about some of the podcasts that you listen to and actually gives you a top 5. And so many people, I have a message saying that we are in their top 5 of their most listened to podcasts. I am super excited and super happy. So thank every one of you that have mentioned that to us. I couldn't be happier. And please continue to listen and share this with your friends and family. Right now is the time of the year everyone's traveling. This is the best time to listen to some podcasts. So please share that with them too.
And it's the best time to listen to our voices.
Right? I promise we won't put you to sleep. With all that being said, reach out to us on our social medias. You can go to Be Hero Media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also go to BeHeroMedia.com to get everything that is Be Hero Media. You can also reach out to me directly at Mike Burke DCW on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and Mike Burke Pro on Twitter, because Twitter still hates me. You can also reach out to Psycho at Psycho Wrestling on Facebook. And then finally, as this airs, for the upcoming shows of Devotion Championship Wrestling, we are actually having our biggest show of the year, our 6th year anniversary show. We've actually made it 6 years. I don't know if you guys know this, but we were originally told that we weren't even going to last a year for Devotion Championship Wrestling as a promotion. We are now 6 years. We are essentially the only game in town at this point, too. And, you know, being the only, we're the best. So please come and enjoy this show with us. Not only is it going to be a great show, but it's the return of our current DCW champion, who is also the ECW legend, Tommy Dreamer. So to get the opportunity to meet Tommy Dreamer and see him in action along with the rest of us, myself included, come to our show this Saturday, December 7th at Light Tree Studios for our 6th anniversary show. And then following that, the very next weekend, we will be back in Ogden for the last tussle time of the year at Kamikaze's December 14th. And then we'll be right back in Salt Lake at the beginning of the year. And I mean like the beginning of the year, January 4th at Light Tree Studios for our next live taping. And following all of that, we are also going to start airing all of our matches once again on our YouTube page. So I know it's a whole lot to follow. Easiest way to do so is go to our social medias. That's Devotion Championship Wrestling on Facebook and Instagram, DCW Salt Lake City on Twitter, and Devotion Wrestling on TikTok and YouTube. Oh, that was a whole lot of extra stuff at the end. That being said, I really hope you guys enjoyed this episode. It was a great episode and a great show to review. And coming up, we'll be reviewing some more of previous shows. I believe we have a Raw coming up and some other shows coming up that we get to review. And, of course, we're going to go right back to just talking wrestling in general. So please stay with us through the rest of this year. Actually, now that I think about it, I do believe we have our end of the year where, you know, how's the wrestling or world of wrestling going thing we have to use. The state of wrestling. That's it.
There you go.
Yeah, that's going to be coming up probably next week. So catch us for that great episode. Again, follow us, subscribe if you're on YouTube, or subscribe on Spotify, however you listen to us, and share with your friends and family. Psycho, anything else before I forget?
I think you said a mouthful.
That is very true. For the rest of Be Hero Media, he has been Psycho, I have been me, and this is us tapping out. Have a great night, guys.